There are 27 spells in Hogwarts Legacy.
So with all the spells in Harry Potter, they had to miss some big ones.
Yeah, but which spells did they miss that they shouldn't have?
That's what we're exploring today.
Let's do it!
Number 10, Brackium Emendo. Brackium Emendo, oh boy, this is a spell that is accidentally cast by Professor Lockhart in the films after Harry Potter falls and breaks his arm during a Quidditch match. Brackium Emendo is a spell that Lockhart casts in an attempt to mend Harry's broken arm. Instead, it renders Harry's arm completely boneless, instead causing him to have to pay a visit to the hospital wing where Madame Pomfrey keeps him for a good while regrowing the bones in his arm with a potion known as Skellygrow that, if I recall correctly, works great but tastes and smells terrible, and whose process of regrowth is also incredibly painful. Still, I think that Brackium Emendo would simply be super useful in a duel, considering you could just render your opponent's arms as basically noodles and pretty much defeat them permanently by leaving them unable to, pick up their wand and therefore use it in combat. It would take them a good while before they tried you again in combat, if ever, because honestly the process of regrowing bones, as described in the book, sounds terrible, and it also takes a while.
And at 9, Obliviate. Obliviate is the spell used by multiple people in order to wipe memories. Most commonly used by Professor Lockhart to make the actually useful witches and wizards forget that they were the ones who did the things he claims to have done in his books. He attempts to use it on Harry in Chamber of Secrets, but Ron's wand was busted and it made the spell backfire, causing Lockhart to forget everything instead. It was also used by Hermione in Deathly Hallows to have her parents forget about her so good old Voldy couldn't have a reason to stop by, which I guess makes sense, but that guy also hates muggles to his very core, so I doubt he would have made himself go see them. Plus also, how would he know that she used that spell? But logical fallacies aside, the spell isn't usable in Hogwarts Legacy, but that doesn't mean the spell isn't in the game, alright? I mean, how else would you explain everyone just ignoring the millions of times you've tried using Avada Kedavra on your classmates?
Number 8, Spongify. Spongify is actually a super useful spell in the original Harry Potter games for PC. It allows players to leap into action. I remember it fondly from the Chamber of Secrets game specifically, where we can learn Spongify in Defense Against the Dark Arts from Professor Lockhart. And although this is the second spell that I have mentioned specifically that I learned from Lockhart, I'd like to reiterate that no, I'm not a Lockhart fangirl. I just really love the nostalgia of this spell, and of course I really love the silliness of the previous one that he cast. We've named actually a few Lockhart spells. We're not Lockhart fans. Or are we? Also, as I said, Brackium Emendo would have been super useful in combat, okay? This one would be as well. Spongify is useful in terms of quests and looting, but also could have uses in combat as well, allowing you to leap out of the way of your enemy's spells. Spongify was used to create a trampoline-like surface, and even games like Hogwarts Mystery has acknowledged the use for the spell in previous games, which I love. For me, this is also why I loved things like Wiggenweld Potion reappearing in Hogwarts Legacy. Wiggenweld is a potion I remember fondly from my early PC gaming days. Back in the original Harry Potter games, however, the healing potion was much more comically large, thanks to those classic in-game graphics of the early 2000s.
And at 7, Eat Slugs. Slugulus Eructo, otherwise known as Eat Slugs, is a hex that, well, makes you eat slugs. Kind of. Technically, you reverse eat them. The effects of the spell wear off on their own, however, it is also able to be cured fairly quickly with Terrical Fudge, which takes effect within seconds. Although I really wish that this was in the game, because it doesn't hurt anyone. It would be a great way to temporarily distract enemies, and it would give you a reason to carry around Terrible Fudge, because that's a thing in games, right? You don't need a health potion if you have Terrible Fudge. Also, don't you think that it would be hilarious to start hexing the students since you're unable to kill them? Right? Come on. Ron uses the spell in Chamber of Secrets trying to hex Malfoy, but his broken wand made it backfire. And fun fact, the actual incantation for this spell wasn't revealed until LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4, where you can buy the spell in Diagon Alley. Before that, we just thought it was Eat Slugs, but it's not, which means that Ron was able to cast this hex non-verbally, which is kinda nuts, because that would also mean he would have had to practice it a lot. But you also can't use magic outside of Hogwarts, so the dude must have been going crazy his first year, because because this is some advanced level magic doing it non-verbally, because, you know, students aren't taught non-verbal magic until their 6th year.
Number 6, Aguamenti. This spell is used to summon water. I've always thought it was odd that for some reason we kinda learn Incendio most times before we learn Aguamenti. Aguamenti is a charm that is part of your newts, a charm learned therefore in your 6th year as opposed to your 5th year. It seems irresponsible to me to teach people how to set fire to things in 5th year without teaching them how to first put out said fire. Granted, Aguamenti doesn't work against all kinds of fire. While you can use it to distinguish flames conjured by Incendio, it won't work on curse flames conjured by the Fiendfire spell. Still, it seems like it would be a pretty useful spell to know when you consider that in a duel in Hogwarts Legacy, you can literally light your opponents aflame and also be lit aflame yourself. Yikes.
Halfway through into number 5, Pumpkinhead. The Malfoy's jinx is never seen in the movies, but its purpose is encasing the head of the target in a pumpkin. Yeah. To bystanders, however, it just looks like the head was turned into a pumpkin, which is, I find that absolutely hilarious. Pumpkin Johnny was a mysterious Halloween figure said to cast this jinx on Hogwarts students if he was summoned. He was supposedly a Hogwarts student who was bullied due to his fondness for pumpkins, and then had his head trapped in a pumpkin when a student cast this jinx on him on Halloween. He then fled into the Forbidden Forest and was never seen again, and could be summoned on Halloween if his name was said out loud 3 times. He's basically the Beetlejuice of the wizarding world. And similar to Eat Slugs, I would like this to be in the game just so I can have some fun with the students since we can't harm them, which sounds horrible, but you know, it was a nickname in high school for me. Maybe they'll add it in as a Halloween reward come October of this year, since they already did that in Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery. Yeah, you can use it in there, so do it this time.
Number 4, Apparate. While apparating is not allowed, permitted, or I believe even possible on the castle grounds of Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry, and while flying around on a broom is super fun and using the Flu network super useful, I still imagine that there are many people out there like me who are hoping that apparating would be possible, especially in the outside world. I mean, apparating isn't allowed at Hogwarts, but I'm sure once you're off the school grounds, it would be allowed, it would be possible. I guess the difficulty in a video game would be allowing people to load, just about anywhere, as opposed to like having points on the map that they can travel to, loading points. I'm not entirely sure, as I'm not a programmer or a game dev myself, but I imagine based on my limited knowledge that this would be a lot more work from a coding standpoint. That and the fact that much of our time is still spent at Hogwarts is probably why we don't get to apparate, but if perhaps we continue to get more RPG based games set in the wizarding world, this will become possible in the future. After we are more playing outside of Hogwarts, maybe in a game where we're playing as, a fully graduated student. Although Fantastic Beasts as a franchise overall flopped, I must admit I still found the magical world of the Americas that we explored pretty much exclusively outside of school super interesting. And as an adult magic user, it's more likely we'd be apparating around primarily as opposed to fluing or flying.
Getting close to the end in number 3, Rictumsempra, or Rictumsempra, however you want to say it. Basically, it's just the tickling charm, and it's quite the interesting spell. In duels, it's mostly used as a diversionary tactic meant to distract or temporarily incapacitate opponents, like Harry did to Draco in Chamber of Secrets. God, a lot of Chamber of Secrets spells in this list. But, come on, you can't tell me that you wouldn't want to go around making people fall to the ground laughing, okay? That would be one of the most hilarious ways to spend your free time in this game. And then, add on to that the fact that you're spreading laughter, the best medicine to your whole school. Damn, you're the hero of this game for a reason. Maybe you think it's funny, maybe you think it's a form of torture because you don't like being tickled yourself, but to be honest, I can't imagine She Who Must Not Be Named believes people with sensory issues exist, so everyone at the school would probably enjoy it. Or maybe you just want to try and recreate that horrifically uncomfortable Riverdale plot line in this game. Who knows, okay? Whatever floats your boat, or tickles your goat, I guess.
Number 2, Skurge. For fans of the classic 2000s Harry Potter games, the Skurge charm is another nostalgic one. For some reason, in those original PC games inspired by the films, there was just slime everywhere, described by Professor Flitwick to be ectoplasm, left behind by ghostly entities. And you had to remove said ectoplasm to explore and uncover loot by casting Skurge pretty much on a loop, depending on the mission, of course. course. I guess the abundance of green slime does make sense considering that Hogwarts is rampant with ghosties, and for this reason Skurge gives me all the nostalgic feels because of the abundance of ectoplasm that I encountered on one of my first video game journeys into the wizarding world, where I played at the time as Harry Potter himself because, you know, that was really your only option back then. Sadly, no trace of this weirdly familiar charm is in Hogwarts Legacy, and also a lack of ectoplasm based obstacles too, in my humble opinion.
And finally, in at number 1, Piertotum Locomotor. Locomotor, whatever, okay? I'm not Latin. Probably one of the most iconic moments in the series. Piertotum Locomotor is the spell used to animate the suits of armor and additional statues at the entrance to the school before the Battle of Hogwarts by Professor McGonagall. The spell is actually seen in the beginning of this game in the opening section, as statues like drop from the ceiling and then you gotta fight them, but beyond that the spell isn't usable in the game, which actually kinda sucks because it seems to have a load of applications. I mean, yeah, stone knights are cool, but Flitwick uses it to immobilize Snape with a suit of armor, which would be a pretty cool environmental mechanic to add to combat. McGonagall uses it on the wizard chessboard that was protecting the Philosopher's Stone, and Molly Weasley uses it on her knives to help cut potatoes. So there's plenty of ways to use this spell as well, alright? So it just seems like there would have been such a cool aspect that would have been added to the game if they had included the spell, but they didn't, so shame on you.
Well, that's all the time we have for magic today. I hope you enjoyed this video.
Thanks for watching. Click the video, it's popping up.
Bye!
Peace.